Everybody, we're going to start with lesson 1 from module 4, topic 1. Start with our warm-up, but first we're going to talk about our learning goals for this lesson. It will be a 2-day lesson. All right, today will be the warm-up, activity 1.1 and 1.2, and then tomorrow will be 1.3 and the talk. So first off, learning goals, using positive and negative numbers to describe quantities having opposite directions. We're going to talk a lot about negative numbers in this first lesson. What are they? How do we write them down? How do they relate to the positive numbers? And then how do we use these negative numbers to solve real world problems? And that's our essential question for today. So go ahead and pause the video. Make sure you have the essential question written down. And we'll go ahead and get started with the warm-up. Okay, so for the warm-up, it's asking us to plot each number on the number line, then insert an inequality, or meaning greater than or less than, symbol to make each inequality statement true. Okay. So go ahead, pause, and we're going to do problems 1, 2, and 3. Do all 3 problems, and hit play to check your answers. All right, everybody, this is how I would do this one. I would start with 3/4. I know that 3/4 is in between 0 and 1. It's going to be halfway between halfway and the 1. Let's be about right here. And 1.5 is just going to be between the 1 and the 2. It's going to be halfway between the 1 and the 2. So looking at the number line, I know that 3/4 has got to be less than 1 1/2, because 3/4 is to the left of 1 1/2 on the number line. 5.6 and 5 6/100. 5 6/10 or 5 6/100. Right away, I know 5 6/10 is bigger, because a tenth is bigger than 100th. If I were going to write 5 6/100, it would probably be somewhere around here. And 5 6/10 would be a little bit more than halfway between 5 and 6. Like so. And then finally, 7 6 65/100 versus 6 75/100. I know that 6 75/100 is like 6 3/4, which is going to put that about right here. And then 7 65/100 is going to be more than 7.5, so I'm going to just put it right here. And I know that 7 65/100 is bigger than 6 75/100, because 7 is larger than 6. And there we go with the warm-up. Moving on to 1.1. So this is going to be page 2 in your PDF, page 9 in the packet. All right. We're going to talk about number lines, using number lines to help us explore negative numbers. Okay. So we would do this with a large number line within our classroom if we were all together. But because we're not, I'm just going to go ahead and write the values right here on this number line. So for each student, plot and label the point where the student stands on the number line. Also identify what time is represented by the point. So each one of these students represents a time. And we're going to talk about using this number line as a way to look at negative and positive numbers, thinking about time. So you can go ahead and do this with me. Student A stands at 0. Student A represents the time it is right now. So 0 time is 0 minutes away from the time right now. That's where student A is standing. Student B is at the point that represents 3 hours from now. So 3 hours from now would be 1, 2, 3. 3 hours in the future would be 3 hours to the right. That's student B. Student C represents 3 hours ago. So that would be 3 hours in the past. That would be right in 3, a -3, or student C, because I'm going 3 hours behind, or I'm subtracting 3 hours. Notice I go in the number line the same way I would if I were adding or subtracting. I move to the right for adding or hours in the future, and I move to the left if the hours were in the past or I'm subtracting. Student D, stand at the point that represents 5 hours from now. So that's in the future. That's going to be 4, 5. And that is student D. Student E is 2 hours ago. So that's 2 hours in the past, or a -2. And then student F is 7 hours ago. 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 hours in the past, or 7 hours ago. So our number line to reflect all of these has our negative numbers to the left because they're in the past, so we're subtracting them from the current time, or 0. And the times in the future to the right because we're adding times to our current time, which is 0. So this number line shows us where each one of these times lays on the number line. So now we've got some good explanation here. All right. A number line can be created by reflecting the positive numbers across 0. The values to the left of 0 on the number line are called the negative numbers. Again, it's just like subtracting. We go to the left if we subtract. We're subtracting, we're taking numbers away. If we have negative numbers, we go to the left of 0. The positive values extend to positive infinity, and the negative numbers extend to negative infinity. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight some of this. Positive values extend to positive infinity, negative numbers extend to negative infinity, where infinity, represented by this symbol, means that it's a quantity with no end or bound. And we know this, that we can go on counting numbers into infinity. We've talked about this concept in other modules, so this is not new for us, okay? Basically what it's saying is if numbers can go in the positive direction towards infinity, they can also go in the negative direction towards infinity. And this picture right here kind of shows that with our open-ended number line. We have arrows in both directions, towards infinity, towards negative infinity. And for every number that I go to the right, 1, I can go 1 to the left, -1, 2, -2, 3, -3, 4, -4, 5, -5, 6, -6, infinity, negative infinity. So making sure that we understand that numbers can go in both directions forever is a big important part of understanding negative numbers and its relationship to positive numbers.